Those are carbs.
Yeah. Oh, there's carbs in there too?
Like gummy bears?
Oh.
What do you think they were, air? Hey there, my name is Sarah Moore, and we're here in my backyard of Squamish, British Columbia, and we're filming the Pinkbike cross-country field test. And with me here now is the Cannondale Scalpel. With 100 millimeters of rear travel and a 100 millimeter fork, the Cannondale Scalpel is unmistakably a cross-country bike. All of the bikes, except for the size small, come with 29er wheels, and then that size small comes with 27.5 wheels. Let's take a closer look at the Cannondale Scalpel frame that we have here. For this version, the Cannondale design team has engineered their very own stash tool system. So what that is there's a fabric 8-in-1 multi-tool that fits right inside the frame, easy to pull out. And then there is a Dynaplug ultralight tire plug that fits right into the stash kit as well, and there's also a CO2 that can fit right in there. And if all of that is too heavy for you, there's also a blank plate that you can put on instead. There's tube-in-tube cable routing throughout the bike to make it quieter, easier to work on. Hydration is key, and there are 2 spots for water bottles on the inside of the Cannondale Scalpel frame. At 5'7", I'm riding the size medium, which has a 435 millimeter reach. That's paired with a 60 millimeter stem, and the wheelbase is 1,151 millimeters long. With a 68-degree head tube angle, the new Scalpel is 1.5 degrees slacker than the previous generation was. The Scalpel has a 74.5-degree seat tube angle, which is in line with the other bikes in this category, and it has 436 millimeter chainstays across all sizes. And now let's dive into suspension. Basically, Cannondale wanted to use a horse-link suspension design, but they didn't want all of the pivots and hardware and extra weight that comes with that design. Instead, this carbon section flexes, acting like a pivot, which Cannondale says allowed them to save about 200 grams. With this suspension design, Cannondale was able to keep the frame weight down. They claim a size medium weighs 1,910 grams, and the size medium that we're riding set up tubeless with control tires, no pedals, and we removed that stash tool, weighs in at just under 22 pounds. Our test bike comes with a Fox Float DPS rear shock and a 100 millimeter lefty Ocho fork, which makes it one of the more polarizing bikes here. It's all carbon on all models of this bike, prices starting at $4,500 and going up to $12,000 US. The model we're testing is the Cannondale Scalpel High Mod Ultimate. It retails for $12,000 US, and for that amount, you'll get Strands Eagle Axis, NV wheels, and you'll get Level Ultimate brakes. That's enough about the spec. Let's talk about how $12,000 feels on the trail.
All right, let's talk about how the new Scalpel performs on the trail, but first we gotta cover setup. We did Schwalbe control tires, of course, just like on all the bikes. But Sarah, tell me about suspension.
I set it up according to Cannondale's recommendations. Super easy, there's a little decal front and rear, and went from there.
Speaking of the front of the bike, tell me about that lefty. Actually, wait, don't tell me about the lefty. All I wanna know is what you first thought when you saw it.
Yeah, I know it has like a long history, tried and true, but when you first see the bike, you're like, oh, what's it gonna feel like when I get on the trail, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I gonna feel lopsided?
Yeah.
So
when people think of Cannondale, they think of lefty a lot of times, but there's a bigger picture than that, and that's what we're gonna talk about. Let's go over climbing first.
Despite that, slightly slacker head tube angle, the bike feels super responsive, super easy to like wind through corners. You don't have to, think a long way ahead. And if you look at the technical climbing, the traction is like such a huge part of, what makes a technical climb easier or harder. And the Cannondale has amazing traction on the climbs.
Let's compare it to the Lux in that regard, the Canyon Lux. What did you think there?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, this is obviously a brand new bike. It just came out. It feels a lot less responsive almost when you're going up something like a fire road.
Like it doesn't jump forward as
it doesn't
fast,
jump forward. It doesn't have that harsh feeling that you kind of have come to expect from a cross-country bike. Like you almost expect it to beat you up on the climbs.
Yeah,
but
that's
because
the trade-off.
of that, it doesn't feel like you're getting bounced offline as much. So you can just stay sitting down and, push a smaller gear, save a little bit of energy. It doesn't feel as efficient maybe actually, but it is efficient, and it feels easier to climb and get through technical sections.
And watching you ride those sections, to me, it looked like, whereas on the Canyon or another bike, it looked like you were almost like, oh, I gotta make it. You know, one of those like the reaches, you know? Where this bike, I would watch you and you're seated and you're pedaling and you're just going up the things.
Yeah, like your position, you're kind of on top of the bike a little bit more. And it doesn't feel like you have to pray and hope for the best that you're gonna make it over things, right? Yeah, like it just kind of sucks up the way.
Let's keep in mind too that all the bikes have the exact same tires, the exact same tire pressure, so we're eliminating that variable there. So more forgiving suspension. This bike delivers a good amount of traction for a cross-country race bike, and that certainly helps in the technical climbing, doesn't it?
Yeah, super important. Yeah, so let's start by talking about handling and geometry. There's a lot more room for error with this bicycle. It doesn't feel like you're going to be going over the handlebars at every other corner.
You felt more comfortable. You look more comfortable, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely feels a lot more comfortable descending.
Why do you think that is, that on like a rooty section and maybe you're getting a little loose on a bike like the Cannondale, you feel like you're going to save it, or you feel like you're not worried at all?
Yeah, I think it really is about where you are over the bike. So on this bike, it feels like you're just a little tiny bit more relaxed. It's 2 degrees less steep than the Canyon Lux is.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So you really feel that you're in a better position while still being able to keep, traction on the front wheel.
That front axle is farther out in front of you. You don't feel like you're going out the front door.
Yeah, exactly.
Against your will.
And that's even, with no dropper post. Like, it just feels like you're in a good position.
It sounds like it almost has like a more trail bikey feel. And I know that over at Cannondale right now, someone is like, oh, this is our race bike.
Yeah, it's definitely, you're not as kind of terrified when you're on the descents. It just has a little bit more room for error.
What about the other end of the travel? If it's so forgiving, did you feel like you were sitting into that stroke too much, or?
No, I mean, there was no harsh bottom outs. I never felt like, I was sitting really low in the travel. Yeah, it was just a comfortable kind of using the travel efficiently and well.
If we're talking suspension, there's no way we can't talk about this lefty fork strut thing. So it looks weird, Sarah. I know you had some reservations at first, but you've been riding this thing for weeks. What's the story? How does it work?
It feels great.
Right? It feels like a fork.
It feels a lot like a fork,
So if you weren't looking down, would you know that it's not a Fox or a RockShox fork?
You'd have no idea.
I've ridden that lefty as well too, and I've ridden the new Sids, I've ridden 32s and 34s, and that lefty strut thing, it is quite torsionally stiff. That's not an issue. I would say it's probably one of the stiffest XC forks out there. As far as small bump compliance?
Yeah, it feels
great, right?
Like, on it, like you would have no idea that you don't have a regular fork on there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How much of a factor do you think that fork's rigidity is in the bike's handling? We keep saying that this is probably the stiffest cross-country fork out there, which surely helps that bike go faster on rough terrain. Right? Yeah,
it definitely feels like you're more in control on the descents. It doesn't feel flimsy at all. And I'd say in high speed stuff, you do notice that you're a little bit higher above the bike. It doesn't, not because of the fork, obviously, but just in general, because of the geometry, you do feel a little bit elevated. So
maybe you should lower that seat, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's really high.
Mainly because it doesn't have a dropper post.
Yeah. Cross-country race bikes are all about going up against the clock. We had our own clock. Sarah, how did the new Scalpel do in our time lapse?
Yeah, it had the fastest time on the overall lap and on the climb, and then tied with the Canyon Lux, actually, which has a dropper post on the descent, so kind of an interesting comparison there.
Yeah, okay. Of course, we also had it in the efficiency test, where it placed middle of the pack. It was 10 seconds back from the winner. Sarah, how much did this bike cost?
It's $12,000 US.
Is there anything left to upgrade?
No, like it's got NV wheels, seat posts, handlebar, like super lightweight.
Light, fast stuff. Any issues with that stuff?
None at all.
It worked.
Yeah.
So you also had some Axis gearing on there. What did you think?
I love the Axis. I mean, it's so good when you're, working hard and you just go bloop, bloop, bloop. It's awesome.
I want to talk about that cassette on the back there. That's the new wide range cassette with the 52 tooth cog. What did you think?
I would say cross country is not maybe the best place for this 52 tooth, just because the gear ratio, like the drop is just so big. Like you're working really hard, and then you want to go for that one gear easier, and suddenly you're just spinning.
On the other hand, this is a race bike. Shouldn't you just be in that 10 tooth cog the whole time?
Well, sure.
Okay, let's get to the pros and cons now. All right, on to pros and cons. Sarah, tell the people what you liked.
Well, it's not a trail bike, but it feels a lot more comfortable, a lot more in control than a lot of other cross-country bikes. And then also, there's just not like a harsh suspension feeling. So you could go out for like a really long race or all-day intervals or whatever you want to do.
Stage racing.
Yeah, and you wouldn't just get beaten up. So it's a lot more supple and forgiving. I really also like the Pro Logo saddle that comes on this bike.
It looks weird.
Feels awesome. Doesn't matter what it looks like. You're sitting on it anyways.
All right, cons next. Sarah, tell the people what you didn't like.
Well, I never gelled quite as well with the bike for corners, so that was something that I think could be improved with, a slightly lower, longer bike. If you do really like that, super efficient feeling on the climbs, then this bike doesn't have that. So just press the little lockout button, and you can fix that con.
So when you want to turn your suspension off, she's saying, just push the lockout lever, there you go.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about who this bike best suits, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a modern cross-country racer. If you're tackling more technical courses, it'll be a great bike for you.
What about stage racing, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, because the bike is so forgiving, you're not going to get beaten up as much on a longer stage race. So if you're doing like multi-day back-to-back races or just like, 4-hour races, marathon races, like this would be a great bike to do those kinds of things. And there you have it. That's the Cannondale Scalpel. Stay tuned for more videos from our cross-country field test, as well as a roundtable where we compare all of them.